If you're watching this, you already know that World War I wasn't just a clash of empires. It was a psychological grinder, unlike anything humanity had faced before. The trenches weren't temporary shelters, they were month-long, sometimes year-long, prisons of mud, thunder, fear, and monotony. And yet, countless soldiers held themselves together with methods that weren't theoretical or academic. They were real systems of mental discipline forged under pressure. Today, as modern survivalists and students of history, we don't study these lessons to dramatize them. We study them because the human mind hasn't changed. Stress is still stress, chaos is still chaos, and endurance still comes from behaviours, not luck. So for the next few minutes, let's walk through 8 trench-tested psychological principles that kept men functioning on the edge of collapse. Principles you can apply to your own mental resilience starting today. Lesson 1 is that routine was the backbone of trench sanity even when everything around them was unpredictable. The Great War trenches ran on strict, almost ritualistic structures. Stand to at dawn, equipment checks, ration distribution, trench maintenance, rest cycles, sentry duty. The repetition created stability. Soldiers reported that the predictability, no matter how harsh, reduced anxiety and built a kind of mental rhythm. That rhythm acted like armour against uncertainty. In modern survival terms, it's the same reason that a crisis routine saves your mind from spiralling. If you're in a disaster zone, in a long-term isolation scenario, or even training for readiness, create fixed anchors throughout the day. Wake at the same time. Assign tasks. Set checkpoints. Track progress. Even 3 repeating routines, physical maintenance, gear maintenance, situational awareness, can stabilize your mind when everything else destabilizes it. Lesson 2 is that small-scale control kept men from drowning in large-scale helplessness. A soldier couldn't stop an artillery barrage or influence troop movements, but he could clean his rifle, sweep the dugout, sharpen a bayonet, fold his letters, tighten sandbags. These micro-actions gave men something extremely powerful proof that they still influenced their immediate world. Psychologists today call this locus of control, but trench soldiers learned it without the terminology. When your world becomes overwhelming, narrow the scope. If you're dealing with long-term stress, start with what you can fix in the next 10 minutes. Order your gear. Improve your shelter. Secure your water. The mind responds positively to visible progress, no matter how small, just like it did in 1916 on the Somme. Lesson 3 is that camaraderie wasn't sentimental. It was survival equipment. Trench diaries repeatedly show that what kept soldiers functional wasn't individual toughness, but mutual obligation. Men endured because they weren't suffering alone. They shared food, traded jokes, swapped tasks, and built tight-knit micro-tribes. That social dependency reduced symptoms of shock and fear by distributing emotional weight. For any modern survivalist, this translates directly: isolation is dangerous. Even if you train solo, build a network. Develop 2 or 3 people you can rely on during uncertain times. Shared burdens stabilize the mind the way a dugout stabilized a rifle. Lesson 4 is that humour was used as a deliberate psychological counterweight, not a distraction. Soldiers weren't laughing because conditions were funny. They used humour as an act of defiance. Jokes about officers, the mud, the rats, even death were pressure release valves. This wasn't denial, it was mental recalibration. Humour let them process fear indirectly, making it bearable. Today, the equivalent is using humour strategically during stress, not to hide from reality, but to prevent your emotional system from locking up. A calm mind is functional, and humour is one of the fastest resets you can trigger. Lesson 5 is that compartmentalization protected soldiers from mental overload. A key psychological habit in trench life was the ability to divide the war into immediate tasks instead of facing the whole weight of it at once. Soldiers mentally separated memories from current duties, fear from action, grief from performance. This wasn't emotional coldness, it was disciplined sequencing. In a survival situation, compartmentalization looks like prioritizing first shelter, then fire, then water, then strategy. Handle one layer at a time, and refuse to let future fear sabotage present action. That was trench logic long before it became formal survival doctrine. Lesson 6 is that constant micro-preparation reduced anxiety in the waiting periods. Veterans wrote that the worst moments weren't attacks, they were the hours of tension beforehand. Men coped by checking gear repeatedly, rehearsing movements and mentally reviewing responses. Action replaced dread. This is a lesson every preparedness enthusiast should take seriously. If you're anxious about a scenario, civil unrest, storm season, long-term outages, your best psychological defense is deliberate readiness. Lay out your kit. Walk through drills. Practice navigation. Preparedness isn't paranoia. It's mental sedation through competence. Lesson 7 is that meaning, no matter how simple, shielded men from psychological collapse. Some fought for their unit, others for family pride, others simply because their comrades needed them. That anchor of purpose made suffering comprehensible. Soldiers with a strong internal why consistently showed more resilience. Modern application is straightforward. Define why you train, why you prepare, why you study history. Without purpose, stress feels random. With purpose, stress becomes a challenge you endure for a reason. Lesson 8 is that rest and detachment were not luxuries. They were strategic mental resets. A brief rotation behind the line, even a few hours of quiet, dramatically reduced breakdown rates. The brain cannot stay in high alert forever. Today, we often glorify non-stop grind in both survival culture and daily life. But trench experience proved that downtime prevents collapse. If you're training, prepping, studying, or operating in stressful conditions, schedule genuine rest. Not laziness, rest. When the mind resets, performance rises. When it doesn't, the trench wins. All 8 of these lessons from World War I trench psychology form a blueprint for mental durability that remains relevant today. If these insights brought you value and you want more deep history survival breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to Battlefield Survival, share this video with another history buff, and help keep this channel growing.